That one. That clock's off. Okay, all right, well, let's go ahead and start at 6 o'clock. All right, Ms. Swanson. Turn it to you and you turn it to whoever you want.
Good evening, council.
Good evening.
So this is our second study session related to the 2026 budget. The last meeting, we went through revenues very high level as far as where revenue sources come from, property taxes, sales tax, and all the other fun things that fund all of the services here at the city of Battleground. Tonight, we're going to kind of get into some of the meat of the budget as far as personnel, CPI, capital projects, lodging tax, and then some of our Public Works Division departmental asks. So as we go through this, again, this is the preliminary budget, which means these are just the initial conversations, and we'll continue to have these conversations. Any questions you have, anything you want to delve into further, this is the time to ask. This is a discussion. So as questions come up, please ask. And if there's additional things that we can't answer here tonight, we will come back with the details at the next session. So with that, the first slide here, it's a lot of numbers, I know. This is very high level. This is citywide. So these are all the funds in the preliminary budget showing you total estimated resources and total estimated uses. Per state law, we do have to provide a balanced budget, which means that our revenues and expenditures have to agree, and that includes using fund balances that we have on hand. So like for capital funds, those are the funds that we collect impact fees that then we use for projects as a match with grant funds or projects that are decided upon by council. So we expect always to use the fund balances in those funds. We have some one-time use funds in our general fund from our surplus fund, and then as well as our parks fund, as well as our enterprise funds works very similar to the capital funds, to where we collect funds, and then as projects happen, that's when we use those fund balances to fund those projects. So of the appropriated fund balance, we expect to use about 6 million of existing fund balance, bringing in about $80.5 million in revenue. And then the total expenditures that we have for the year 2026 is at 86.4 million, and we'll get into the details of what that includes. So looking at one of the biggest expenses that the city have, that is personnel expenses. And so what is built into the budget currently for that, as far as cost of living adjustments, Teamsters and non-represented employees, we are in negotiations for Teamsters right now, so we don't have an amount set in our budget dollar amount yet until those negotiations finish. The non-represented employees historically follow Teamsters, so that will come out once we know what the Teamsters rate will be. For our police officers, they are at a 4.5% COLA per their contract. And then the non-commissioned that are part of that same group is at 3% for 2026. For our healthcare increases related to our health benefits, we do have the actual rates from Regents and Kaiser. So 8.7% increase on Regents. Kaiser, they have two different for the high deductible plan, a 9.4% increase, and then a 10.1% increase for their 250 plan. And then for our Delta Dental or dental insurance, 4% increase, and then the Willamette Dental 7.6% increase. So that kind of gives you a high level of what is included in our personnel expenses. I will also say that for our personnel, we do budget at the highest step in order to encompass if there was turnover and we had to do a cash out, or there's something that happens with that position. That doesn't mean that we expend all of those funds. We just budget that way at the top to make sure we have enough funds for personnel.
Megan, I have a question.
Yes.
On the healthcare, So is that just assumed an annual increase? How often do we go out and bid?
So interestingly enough, we're part of Association Washington Cities. And
Mhm.
so our Regents insurance comes from them and they negotiate with Regents for that. And so that's the pool's rate is that 8.7% increase.
Mhm.
For Kaiser, we're part of the Council of Governments, which is another pool for Kaiser that also goes out and negotiates with Kaiser directly to get the rates that we pay with them.
And how often does AWC do that?
I do not know how often AWC does that. No. I don't.
Like, we don't know if it's like a 3-year contract or and I'm assuming just self-funded.
I do not know, but I can find out from Tamara.
Okay.
I have a question. So why do we have a Regents and a Kaiser? Why don't we just go with Regents or one or the other? Do they do different?
It's pretty common to have to have the Regents and the Kaiser as to why we specifically do that. It's in our contracts with Teamsters as well as the POA. The terminology is eluding me as far as why we have the Kaiser, but it has something to do with having an alternative plan to have options for our employees to
Yeah.
choose from, because they do have different copays, they have different deductibles and different,
They're different
amounts.
types of plans.
yes.
What is the difference between, like, if we're taking Regents 250 for a single employee, Kaiser 250 for a single employee? Because we see 10.1%, but Kaiser may be cheaper for us. And that 10.1% isn't necessarily, while it is 10.1% for the
Mhm.
Kaiser plan, it isn't necessarily the same apples to apples. Do you know what that difference is? What it costs us
Yes.
per employee?
What it costs us per employee, I don't have that amount off the top of my head, but since we are in a work session, give me one moment and we will just go ahead and pull that up.
I think sometimes you see that and an 8.7% increase for Regents may be even higher than a 10.1% increase for Kaiser. So
And comparing if the benefits are the same,
Yeah.
deductibles are the same.
Mm.
So I will say Kaiser is historically more expensive than Regents.
Okay.
And so you can see here on Kaiser for a full family, the employer, oh, you can't see. Thank you. Okay. So for Kaiser, it is $2,896 for a full family, whereas for Regents, it is $2,675 on the employer side with the split that we have. So it's a couple $100 more for Kaiser than AWC
With a 250 deductible.
with the 250 deductible. With the high deductible, that's the $2,118 for Kaiser and then, or not Kaiser, excuse me, AWC, and then $2,231 for Kaiser high deductible. Yes, to the employee, that's why they have those options is because what you get from each of those is different. So during open enrollment.
Yeah, yeah.
Are there any more questions on this before I get out of this spreadsheet? Okay, great questions.
What would you say our percentages for employees on one versus the other? Are we?
We have a lot of people, we actually don't have anybody on the AWC high deductible plan that are non-represented. We have about a third of employees that opt out, about a third that are on AWC 250, and then the other third is on Kaiser high deductible. So we don't have a lot of people on the 250 Kaiser plan, and it has to do with that.
Yeah.
The deductible, because the deductible for Kaiser is significantly lower than AWC.
Yeah.
So we have a pretty good even split across, and that's across all of our different contracts. And then
Really only talking about a third of our employees that are on that plan versus opt out or the.
correct.
Okay.
Yep. Yep,
Thank you.
absolutely. Okay. So looking at well, these are the requests that the city has for FTEs. We have the 2 police officer positions, which are tied to the public safety tax that we'll talk about in a little bit. And then we also have a request for an assistant court administrator and then a project manager for engineering capital projects as well as development. So with the police officers, the theory being of asking for 2 versus more than the 2 was because we're hoping to go out for grants with CJTC. And in order to do that, we can't have it already budgeted. So it has to leave those open. So there may be more requests that come forward for additional officers tied to those grants, but for the budget, we're only tying 2 to that.
Okay.
And then the assistant court administrator. So the state Supreme Court issued a fun new requirement that actually reduces the amount of cases that our public defenders can take. And so what that means is that we have to start case weighting, which is a complicated process for how we're able to get our public defenders to still be able to represent our people as is required. And so with that comes a lot of administrative side on the back end for policies as well as tracking. And we were already short in court as far as the caseload because of how many requirements have come down. The same number of filings that we have this year is not the same as it was 5-10 years ago. And so based on industry standards, 1 case now, 10 years ago is the same as 5. And so when looking at the caseload per individual, we actually should be at 12, which I'm not asking for 12. But for adding 1 to the court in order to keep us moving. We have a very efficient court. They're really good at what they do. And with more officers also comes more filings to our court system. And so looking at all of that, so that is why that request is in there. And then for the engineering project manager with that, that's just related to the number of capital projects that we have as well as development. Our engineering staff is pretty overloaded and they need additional help. And so the request is to get somebody in there to be able to help another body to function through and manage projects and get things out, hopefully in a timely manner. So are there questions about these, concerns about these? Again, these are requests to council. And so if you want us to come back with more information, we can do that. Or if you have any more questions with them, we can answer them.
Can a project manager, so I'm just gonna go back to the Rasmussen project when we built, or Scotton Way, when we built Scotton Way. I remember I was first on council then, and I remember looking at all the bids and like you had rock, underground, all this stuff. And if you took all the low bids out of everything, it saved us like $3 million on that project. And I remember asking Scott at the time, I'm like, well, why do we not do this? Well, we'd have to have more people. I'm like, for $3 million, we can get you a lot of people. And so the question I have is, are we allowed to, let's use any road project, let's use the Grace Avenue extension that we're going to do. Are we allowed to general that ourselves? Have a project manager that oversees it. We bid out each portion of that project and use, if it's Tappanee for underground, if it's Rachi for paving, if it's, and we put that bid out and that's what I look at when I see a project manager. We're managing that project. So we're getting the least expensive contractor to do that part of the job. Are we allowed to do that, or is there a state law that doesn't allow us to do that?
So it's a great question. The only thing I can think of, and there's ways to deal with it, but you can't split bids in order to avoid a bidding process. So
yeah,
I'll just give the example, like you're doing something. So small works roster threshold is 350,000. We know a project's going to cost 500,000. We can't say do the asphalt as one project and the rock as one project to bid under the small works roster.
Yeah.
I don't think there's anything that says as long as we meet the higher, bidding process that you couldn't split those and do it separately. I will not say that on a federal project. I don't know if they'll let you because there are a whole bunch of other people paying attention to it that have their rules. But under a purely locally funded, I think you could probably do that. I can't think of anything that would prevent that. Megan, you?
So it
Mm.
sounds like you really have two questions, though. One is, how strictly do we adhere to the 3 bid, lowest bid requirement? Like, are there ways to appropriately get around it? Ethically get around it? The other question being, how's the project manager really being used? Is the project manager being a general manager for a big project, or is the project manager running all the projects, all the capital projects that are going on, making sure communications are happening appropriately, signage is lined up, all the various pieces across the whole enterprise so that we can get reporting that's specific to all the projects that are in play.
Yeah, and that's kind of like when I think of like a project manager, or construction manager, that type of thing. And it wouldn't necessarily get around the bidding process. We would be the ones. Like, let's just use, for example, we go hire somebody from Tapani to work for us, and they were a project manager at Tapani. And so they know what it takes to build this road. So these are the different phases that we have. This is what it takes. And so when we go out to bid, we're going out to bid for, we need underground work done, we need electrical work done, we need concrete work done, we need paving done, we need striping done, we need all that stuff. And so we bid the striping. So we get 3 companies that bid on the striping, we get the lowest bid. And you break the project down, and when you look at it, when you look at any of these projects we bid, you will see that other companies may have a lower, for gravel. Maybe they own a gravel pit, and so they're considerably less on gravel than, the company that got the bid, because we lump it all together and we take an overall.
Yeah.
And like I said, when I looked at this, when we first did Scott Landing, it was literally like $3 million. If you took the low bid and all the categories we had, it was like $3 million out of, what was that project? 7, 6,
I think we were at 5.
5. So maybe it wasn't quite 3 million. It might've been around 2. I don't think it was quite half.
But the
But
point is correct.
Yeah.
In a lot of bids, like the low contractor's never the low in everything.
Yes,
There's
yeah.
always a range.
Yeah.
Of,
And so that's where, like, if you have a project manager with all the projects that we have going or in the future that we're working on, would it be beneficial to have a project manager, a construction manager that manages those, sends them out, we get the bids on them, and then they work through the project, right? And they oversee that project from start to finish. And your savings would be obviously in what we're saving as we're bidding those out, because we're doing those in-house. It's similar to, if we do stuff in-house, we don't pay prevailing wage. If we hire someone, we have to pay prevailing wage. So if we hire temporary employees to do our maintenance and stuff in the summertime, that's different than if we go hire, Joe's landscaping service to do those same projects.
correct.
So that's kind of what I was wondering.
So-
Or would this project manager be more with Ms. Kuiper was talking about, just oversees everything?
Yeah. So the original, I guess, as I envisioned it in discussions with city engineer, was more what Jeannie's talking about, where it's right now our project people, they literally start with design, go through right away, go through construction. So they're doing everything cradle to grave. What I think we see for this position is there's some efficiencies to a person who literally is only dealing with the construction side of it. We've seen some of the contractors lately, both on the public side and the development side, that have had issues. And so having a person that can focus on that versus, me trying to do it and I'm trying to do everything else here, city engineer, same thing, like just being spread super thin, having a person that can focus on the construction. And that's not to say that person, we couldn't explore what Shane's talking about, looking at some of the projects. I think it would be cool to, test pilot something like that to truly see if we, see the savings that we can. But yeah, the original kind of thought was to just manage construction. So we don't have 5 people doing it. We have one person who can focus on the details.
Is that 129, is that including the healthcare?
No, that is salary top of scale.
So add a third. for healthcare. And there it
Yeah,
is.
depending upon, sometimes the person opts out, then it's a small dollar amount, whereas if they have a full family, then it's bigger. But we do budget at the full family for any new position again to make sure that we can afford it. But I'm just showing salary.
And so this fee is 129 for the year, and then next year you got your COLA and all, everything else going.
And that would be at the top. If we hired somebody at step A, then it wouldn't be 129. It would be down from that. So again, this is top of scale, max of what they would receive in salary. And I think the terminology change you're looking for is general manager. And so there's actually some forms of RCW that allows if a project's over $10 million, it has to go to the state and then they approve you to do a general manager where you hire a general and then they do what you're talking about. That's if you go with a consultant. But what you're talking about, Mark, was absolutely correct, that you can, as a city, act as a general.
Yeah.
You would just be doing pieces of it. And I think the city of Battle Ground, because we have so many engineers on staff, we do that for some things. We definitely try to use efficiencies and making sure we're getting the best deal. But it, like you said, on the bigger ones, it's a little more complicated than that. But there shouldn't be anything in RCW that restricts us from doing that. Again, because the only thing you can't do is bid split. And so if you're going, when we say bid split, that means you have to go out for advertisement for 2 weeks and then come back and take the low responsible bidder. But if you're doing that for all the different phases, then there's nothing against doing that.
I feel like, especially for the large capital projects, the wage would pay for itself and the savings that we could potentially get over a large project. I'd be very interested to test the waters a little bit, see what that would look like. Have a project manager come on as well, but have a general manager also possibly look at taking on some of these larger projects that we have coming up and looking at fractioning out the bid proposal into the segmented projects that make up the whole project. See if we can get separate bid process for each one.
And one of the things, I mentioned it when we were talking about the ops center, but that might be a good project to do the more state related, general contractor, general manager type. So we're continuing to explore that and we'll have a little bit more information at the retreat. And then as we get further into it, have more information on it. But that very much like Megan's saying, as you get to the bigger projects where, that wouldn't necessarily be a staff person. It could be like hey, we're going to hire Tapani and then they're going to agree to a price and then they'll find those people that are each specialty and that sort of thing. So
It's all markup. They all got to make their markup on it, and that's how they stay in business. But it's the same for us. What is that percentage, and what does that look like that we can capture?
Yep.
And on a 10 million or even a couple $1 million project, at 20%, makes a big difference.
yeah, the key will be coordinating everything. You don't
Yeah.
want to have Striper's not ready for another 6 months and you got a done project, but no striping. So
Yeah.
there's definitely a skill to that, but
Yeah.
no, it could save us some money.
Well, and you can't hire, this has got, like, you got to steal somebody. This isn't that, hey, we're gonna give you a shot. You got to go steal somebody that does this.
Yeah.
Because they're bringing their contractors, they're bringing their people, they're bringing the contacts that they have.
Yeah.
That's what
Mhm.
makes them valuable. So,
Mhm.
thank you.
Are there any more questions with any of these before I move on?
Nope.
Well, there we go. Okay. So the public public safety tax. So councilmanic 0.1% sales tax for public safety. It would be effective April 1st of 2026. And for 2026, bring in approximately $500,000 for 9 months. Currently, the police department has all the required policies in place and just has a few training requirements to complete to be eligible for the CGATC grant and thereby sales tax. So what you see later this evening will be the setting of the public hearing in order to codify it into code to then be able to implement April 1st of 2026. And so in our 2026 budget, associated costs, what we'd be spending that on is the 2 new officers with associated training, uniforms, equipment, and the additional car for a total of $474,000. Some of those are one-time costs, and then we'll have to obviously replace equipment and the car R&R, but that's how we were saying that we stage with 2 and then we progressively can add more as those costs free up. Are there any questions with this? More information wanted?
So on the CJTC grant, we're close to submitting to CJTC saying we want to apply for this.
Yes, sir. There's just a couple training pieces. The policies that were required were all written and approved, and those are done. There was a couple training requirements that we made sure that we had exactly what CJTC wanted. There's training that's going to be occurring this month, but we're fairly confident that we should have this all done by December. It's my understanding, Megan, correct me if I'm wrong, we're supposed to have it in place by April 1st, but even then, I think they would give you a 6 months grace after that. Our intention is to have this all done by the end of the year.
And at that point, then they can apply. And with that, I will say that it is only for entry level, not laterals.
That's going to be the battle.
Yeah.
Everybody that gets it's going after entry levels.
Yeah.
And getting them to the academy.
So in a full year to where we're collecting for 12 months, it'll bring in about 650,000, depending upon what the market's doing. But it's about the same as our transportation benefit district sales tax. So any more questions related to this for myself or Chief Flynn? Okay, so lodging. So with the Lodging Tax Advisory Committee, they review applications that come in for funding related to our hotel motel taxes. And then they make a suggestion to council, which council has ultimate authority on the events and final approval of amounts. The only thing that the council cannot do is if an event was not funded or not recommended by the Lodging Tax Advisory Committee, it can't then be added. So of all of these, council has the authority to amend the dollar amounts or in any up or down. And then at that point, a notification I send to the Lodging Tax Committee, letting them know of any changes, and they have so long to come before council to then make their case either way. And then ultimately it then gets approved in the budget. So with that said, our first item was the Battleground Festivals Association Harvest Days. We had a split vote on the Lodging Tax Advisory Committee where or two were willing to fund it at the full amount of $66,725. And the other 2 were only willing to fund it at $50,000. This is an event that we partner ultimately with Battleground Festivals and that we've funded it for the last several years. And so this one, I do need some sort of direction as to what council ultimately would like to fund for Harvest Days.
How much did it cost us this year?
It was around 66,000.
I'd like to make a motion that,
Right now.
What was
Well,
that?
No motion.
You don't, I just
this
say
is
that's,
just that you can't make a motion during the study session.
Right. So you're just looking.
you can just give me direction and let me know.
do you want a physical or do you want to?
So personally, I'd say we fund that thing. I mean, for the amount that the Harvest Days does for the city, the events that go on, all the various events. I think it's a worthwhile venture for that lodging tax to go towards that.
I would like to hear what Shane has to say with this since he's on that board.
So I would have John talk if you can, because I have a conflict. So because I'm on the board, but I don't,
Be about like, cause you would have made a vote on there.
no,
No.
because I introduced myself. That's why it was a split vote.
You're on the festival? as
Yeah,
Well.
Yeah, I'm one of the 3 that run the festival. So I did not vote on this. That's why it was a split vote, 2-2. But if you have questions, like Mr. Nzinga could answer those if you had them, but or ask Megan. Megan can tell you how it went.
Yeah, would you like to share with us how that went, Megan?
To be perfectly frank, there was not any discussion about lowering the dollar amount to 50,000 until the motion came forward. And so there was no reason behind the lower dollar amount. And then a second motion was made for the full amount on the
And I
committee.
would say, if I may,
Yes.
is this okay?
Yeah.
I believe the fund was 280,000. Is that
Mhm.
correct?
That is correct.
And at the end of the day, the amount that was awarded with this one being at 50,000 was 134, 130, 164, significantly less than what's in the fund. So I say there's no reason not to fund this at the full amount, especially being the draw that it is to our community, and
Mhm,
everyone knows
mhm.
that. And, I think the committee is very frugal with the dollars, and so I think we need to fund it.
Thumbs up.
Okay, well, if I have no objections, then we'll go ahead and put it in at the full 66,000. Thank you. So the second event was Oktoberfest. This was an event that was supposed to kick off this year, but is getting carried forward to next year. And so this event was approved last year for funding for 2025, but they're moving it to 2026. They're hoping it to become another Harvest Days, which is fantastic to have a big event in the fall. Are there any questions about that event?
So it got moved to 2026. So does that mean the budget that was going to be allotted, is it moving over and that's what's making up the 25? Or no, we had a certain amount come from 2025 that's moving over?
The amount that was allocated this year will go unreimbursed, and it will just sit in the fund. And then this will be a new appropriation for 2026 for the event and from the fund. So it's just sitting in fund balance.
Okay, do you have any details on the Oktoberfest and like where it's being held and some?
They are hoping, there's several different locations. I can't recall exactly all of them off the top of my head, but downtown was talked about, the community center, as well as, I believe,
It's center.
the community center. And they are calling it Autumn Days as well. I think the naming of it, Oktoberfest Autumn Days. They're hoping again for it to be a fall festival, much like Harvest Days, to be a draw to the city.
I would like to see them open up downtown so we can drink and shop.
There you go.
So
Yeah.
that one, I can comment on it. But we were going to be on the streets in downtown, and we got a little bit of pushback.
Oh.
And so that's why it got changed this year. We got pushback from some of the businesses not wanting the streets shut down.
Mm.
And so we tried moving it over to the park, the fairgrounds park, but we had conflict with baseball in the fall, and we had a conflict at the community center. So that's why we moved it, and we do have the community center for next year booked. And that's where we're planning on doing it. It'll have, some other details that'll come out in the future, but it'll be similar to an Oktoberfest where there's music. And,
It's a lot
sometimes-
small. So it's
Yeah.
not very big.
If you use the patios and all that stuff, I mean, for the first year, we're thinking you might have 500 people, because this will be mostly adults. We haven't decided if there's gonna be a kids side of that. So we're still working through that, but using the community center and the fairgrounds park area, event center, the event center.
I did the same.
So, and just so everybody knows, LTAC, all of these are only reimbursable funds.
Mhm.
So you have to spend the money to get the money. And so if you don't, it just rolls right back in. So it doesn't matter what it is. If the Southwest Winery Association only spends 5,500, that's what they get, even though they were allotted 10.
Okay.
You only get reimbursement up to whatever the reimbursement is. So
Correct. And then that also prevents even if they spent money and then the event fell through and they don't hold the event, then they don't get reimbursement for it.
I mean, I've wanted an Oktoberfest here for, ever. So, I mean, I'm very excited. But I have a husband who's gone to Germany, was stationed there for 10 years. So it's like, I don't want us to look bad. It needs to go big,
I think there's a committee you can join.
Yeah, there.
Yes, please. Yes, we gotta do this right.
I've heard a lot of positive, both on the Lodging Tax Advisory Committee, positive thoughts about this in the community. The Save War, which is down at the bottom, was very successful for them. I think anything to do with events like that are positive. Okay, so the next group is Best Western. So they have two online advertising campaigns, and then also the highway sign. I will say that the amounts they asked for were significantly more than what the Lodging Tax Committee approved. So they're both in at 5,000 apiece, and then 1,000 for the highway sign. Are there any questions about these?
Well, I know this has been a talking point before I even got on council, and that we were questioning, why are we paying for this? And I mean, the idea, especially if we're having these Oktoberfest and these harvest days, that should be bringing them in customers. So why are we paying for that? And then I remember we were gonna start dwindling it down to get them used to. Yes? Do we have any?
And we brought it down. I think the ask last year was like 86,000.
Mhm.
And
Okay, yeah.
this is what they settled on. And I think council even, I can't remember, Megan, maybe 2 years ago, we even lowered it even more as a council because we didn't feel that we should be advertising personally, but this is kind of where they settled. The ask was greater than this again. You know, some of it was bang for buck, you know, how much are you paying? How many heads and beds are coming in because of that? And this is kind of where we ended as a group, but it is true. Like you said, I mean, you know, if we're bringing in $80,000 a year, but we're spending $80,000 a year for the hotel to advertise, you know, what good is it? And this is because we have one hotel. If we had 2 hotels, 3 hotels, you know, how does that look?
Mhm.
So,
I think we did talk about maybe getting some updated guidelines on how the taxes are supposed to be used, and then kind of how that aligns with our decision-making when we get these requests. I did sit in on that meeting, and it seemed a little confusing at times as to what, you know, the why behind it and whether that was appropriate. So I think for next year, it'd be nice to have a little more solid direction on that. And maybe find ways to get more, have more opportunities for people to apply for the grants rather than the money sitting there.
Any more questions on it? Okay. So the next group is the Evoke Cascadia. This is for the Battleground Pride event as well as a new Battleground Film Festival. And so the committee approves 2,700 for the Pride event and then 1,500 for the film festival. Questions about these events? More details?
The film festival, is that the new art?
It's a new event that would be held at the Battleground Cinema to bring in, have like a day of films related to marginalized communities as well as various,
Okay.
the details are eluding me, but I can provide more if you
Okay.
want more.
Well, I'm just looking at, and then you have the General Federation of Women's Club, you've got the Southwest Winery Association. And I guess I'm just like, so these are all organizations that are asking the city for money to help them promote or to put on these events?
So okay, so lodging tax funds can only be used for tourism related
Okay.
events or advertising for the city. And so
Okay.
any of these events, regardless of what group is targeting, whether that be people who drink wine, people who drink beer, people who like films, people who like to run, ultimately it's bringing new people to the city of Battleground to then get them to come to the city to either put heads in beds or to come shop in our downtown, whatever it may be. Ultimately, the goal being tourism.
It's like us going out for grants. These are
Yes.
groups that are coming to us because we have this tax that allows them to do so. Okay.
Correct. Yeah.
Gotcha.
And we historically, we have not had a lot of new folks that have come in to request these funds, we do promote it. We do let people know that these funds are available. But up until the last couple years, we had ultimately the same folks that came and we didn't have any new, but the last couple years we've had a lot more, which is where needing the additional guidelines and needing to maybe narrow it a little bit more for how much and what we're funding is coming into play. The General Federation of Women's Club is for the Ladybug Bazaar, I will say that. And then the Southwest Winery Association is for the Save War event that happens at the event center. So that's what those two are.
So what about like the Christmas event and the pooch parade or something is?
Yeah.
Okay, that's specifically the city putting that on for its citizens. Okay.
Which the city can also apply for lodging tax funds. Ultimately, it's just applying to the fund and then we take those funds and reimburse the fund that ultimately paid for it. It sounds like Jeannie attended a PACE board meeting and there was a lot of good ideas thrown out there to where the city could be utilizing these funds. We did do that right before COVID. And then COVID happened, events stopped, and then it hasn't picked back up again to where they've come back to lodging tax committee and asked for funds again. But that's definitely an option.
So can we use these funds to spark up, improve our signage coming into the city, our welcome to battleground signage, our entrances into the city to make them look a little more exciting? Can we use that for, like, what's the definition on? Well, we're probably getting into too much detail, but I'm just curious whether that can be used
They
under the guise of advertising.
They define tourism as 50+ miles, so it would have to be advertising. That would be like, so the highway sign applies because people are driving up and down the I-5 corridor. So they're like, okay, they potentially could be from 50 miles out coming into town, pointing
Stop
them
at Dalton.
inland.
Yeah.
Yeah, and versus if you just have an entrance sign, I don't think you could make that nexus to tourism because you're already here.
Yeah.
So they've already come. I
Okay,
like the thought though.
I know, right?
We could do the wall drug approach, you know.
But if the city wanted to do like, how they have the Visit Vancouver website, or you see those advertisings on TV, come to Montana, come to California, you could 100% use these funds for that.
Okay,
So if you can find somebody who wants to do that.
Outreach.
Facebook, a lot of our advertising folks or events use Facebook as that.
You can market with that, especially if it's outside of the area.
Mhm. Yeah, that tends to hit your biggest mark, because I mean, I've seen it to where it's in magazines. They do flyers, they do postings with like various groups, especially like the Winery Association posting within the pamphlets that people get mailed from all over, letting them know of those events. I mean, there's a lot of opportunities. You can do the TV advertising, which depends upon what market you're trying to get to.
Would that be
Yeah.
newspaper articles in the reflector as well?
Newspaper, they do that. Because the Reflector has an online presence, we do count that as being eligible. But technically, since the Reflector is a local newspaper, if they didn't have the web version, we couldn't reimburse it because it's not really getting outside that 50 miles. Yeah. Okay. Are there any more questions on these? Okay. Perfect. Okay. So the fun stuff and the big money. Capital projects. So these are only transportation facilities and park projects. So the ones highlighted in the beigeish color, orangish color. I'm not sure what color you would call that. Those are all the transportation projects. The ones highlighted in blue are the facility projects. And then the ones not highlighted are our parks projects. So in total, about $15.3 million, which are majority is coming from state and federal grants. And then with our local transportation impact fee fund picking up the match for quite a few of the grants as well as projects. And then the general fund coming in with some match as well. And then our park impact fee fund getting some use as well. So a lot of the transportation projects are carryovers. And when we say carryover, that means that if all the Ts are crossed and Is are dotted, we will get to work on that project and that project will go and will get done. But as we know, a lot of times that doesn't happen due to permitting and various things that happen along the project timeline. And so they get carried over to the next year, specifically when they have anything to do with grants, because there's so many checks and balances with WashDOT. it takes a long time to get a transportation project to completion. Now, our facility projects, those are more apt to get done in the year in which they're budgeted. So we have the operations center expansion. We have the design in here for 500,000. We have a facilities lighting retrofit going through and putting in LED lights in our buildings. And then we have an access control system. That's the key card system that needs replacement because it's no longer supported, that we need in our city hall as well as our police department. And then for our parks projects, it's a very exciting one on here, the Remy Park improvements. We got the state appropriation of 1.5 million. I will say, as an option to council, as we move through the process next year of going through the project design and deciding which functions of the Remy we're going to fund, you have the opportunity at that time to then select more items to fund with PIF. So you could say you do your parking, your bathrooms, a dog park, and then say you want to do an inclusive playground, or you want to do another aspect of that Remy Park design that was originally approved. At that time, you could do that. I don't think at this point we're ready to give you a dollar amount to say, go ahead and make your choices and add it, but that'll come through a budget amendment potentially in early 2026.
I'm just excited to see the Parkway and Main signal improvements. And then driving here, seeing Onsdorf and 503 completely backed up and our Main Street backed up. So even from that Parkway, I mean, yeah, that was a complaint for like several years. So I'm really excited and hoping that all those Ts are crossed and the Is are dotted so we can get that done.
Everything.
Can I ask a quick question on the
Yep.
Grace Avenue Phase 2? Where are we in preparing for that project?
We're purchasing the right of ways, yeah.
Is that,
Yeah, so we're in right away phase right now. So we have, other than one kind of issue they're working on with legal, have the right of way plan ready to go to WashDOT. And once they approve that, then we can start doing the appraisals and make the offers.
okay, and then that'll straighten the road, sidewalks, lighting, the whole 9 yards?
Yeah, essentially, if you see the stretch from Eaton to Rasmussen, it'll look like that. It's the same 3-lane section with bike lanes and lights and sidewalks and all of that.
Okay. Thank you.
Are there any more questions about any of these projects? I know there, a lot of them you guys have seen, like we said, right?
Mhm.
5-6 years, so. Okay, so the street fund. So for 2026, we have in the budget, the pavement preservation program contracted work at about $800,000. We're still waiting on the feasibility study to be able to know for those the two big $8 million projects to use the surplus funds that we have. We should have that before we get to final budget adoption. I think we were looking at hoping to talk about it at the council retreat next Monday to then be able to give you options for how much it's actually going to cost for those treatments. So then we can add that to the budget at that time. But without that, we just have the 800,000 in the budget right now for just that piece of the street preservation, the contracted work for the slurry, grind and lay, all of those fun things. And that plan will come to you in early 2026 for what's planned specifically and what roads.
What was the total that we needed to do per year to keep where we're at, the dollar figure?
1.1.
Yeah, I think if you want to keep the score where it is, it's like 1.1, 1.2.
Okay. Thank you.
And I believe he put it in at 800, knowing we were having the big projects
Yeah.
that we're looking at adding, or the big deferred maintenance projects.
Okay.
And then for capital equipment, they do have a request for a backhoe that would be split with the other public works divisions, and then a dump trailer, and then we have the concurrency mitigation transfer to capital projects you saw in the former slide. So are there any questions about the street fund? Everything else in the street fund is relatively similar to this last year for operational costs. So these are just the new additional costs that are being requested. Okay. So looking at our drainage fund, we have a stormwater facility reconstruction. We do have a carryover of our storm drainage plan. And then for capital projects, we have the Jewel Creek bypass, which is a carryover project, the railroad ditch stormwater facility design and land acquisition. And then the Old Town retrofits, that is also a carryover. And then again, capital equipment is the sharing of the backhoe. Are there any questions or want details on the projects? Okay. Looking at our water fund, we have water line repairs throughout the city for our capital projects. They're all carry over. We should be completing the reservoir, well 12 installation, the CPU, intertie upgrade design, more to come on that, along with the Paradise Point design, more to come on that as well. And then we have the SCADA replacement. So we were supposed to replace a portion of the hardware this year, but that's getting carried over to 2026 along with the actual upgrade. So it's a little bit larger of a project than it was for this year's budget, but that's because we're carrying over this portion to next year. And it's a project we do in coordination with Clark Public Utilities because they are the ones who monitor our SCADA and help us with that. And then if you don't know what SCADA is, I can have Mark explain it.
I'm not going to give you the what SCADA stands for. I can never remember, but SCADA essentially is the program or the software that reports back when there's an issue. So like at a pump station, there's several things that we monitor. And if the pump station fails, essentially it sends out a radio signal that, hey, something's wrong, you know, so-and-so's failed, come fix me. And that goes to a computer system that Clark Public Utilities has. And so either they'll call us if it's during working hours, or if not, they'll send it out to the on-call person, say, you know, pump station 5 has an issue. Here's what we're hearing. That person goes out and deals with it and then calls in staff as is necessary to fix the issue.
And then again, a portion of the backhoe and then a vac trailer just for water. And again, there's more that's going to come on the water fund specifically related to Clark Public Utilities as we move through a process with them. We're not going to get into it right now, but just know more is to come. So looking at our sewer fund, we have the general sewer plan carryover. Our Discovery Clean Water Alliance fee is the same this year as it was last year because they're on a biennial budget. So it's 4.4 million. And then all of our capital projects are carryover 92nd Avenue. And then again, the sewer portion of the SCADA system. For capital equipment, we do have, again, the final portion of the backhoe. And then we have a CCTV camera and transporter and a push camera. And those are all for our sewer lines. Are there any questions about our sewer fund? Not at this time. Perfect. And I think I have one left. I think I can get it done in a couple minutes. So our park maintenance fund, we have our parks plan recommended repairs that we budget for annually since we adopted that plan of 200,000. That's repairing equipment, making sure we have equipment that is functional and operational for our kids. And then capital equipment, we have 2 commercial mowers, a dump trailer, and then a UTV. Are there any questions about any of those?
What is the UTV for?
So at some of our parks with the trails, like Brookhaven's a good example where there's just no way to get equipment down there. So the thought is having something a little bit smaller where we can actually take stuff down to be able to maintain it. There's other parks like that, mostly with the trails where it's just, we can't get a vehicle in. So other than people hand carrying the equipment or, you know, if we're replacing a bench, that kind of stuff, it would assist in that.
Will you check with Pro Caliber? The fire district had a brand new one that we had. It's got maybe 300 miles on it and we traded it in for a newer one. I mean, a 4-seater. And I know what we got for that. So I could probably help you in negotiating with that, but it's a real nice one that has a big bed. So, and it seats 3 people.
Perfect. And then last slide is our governmental debt, just showing what we're budgeting for. We just have the one remaining bond outstanding for Scott and Way. And other than that, we can be done with the study session for night and pick up at the next one.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
All right, we will adjourn for 5-ish and a half minutes, 6 minutes. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, good. Good. Mm-mm. You did though.
All right, call to order the October 2025 Battleground City Council meeting. If you'll join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic
For which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. The clerk will call roll, please.
Mayor McCoy is absent this evening. Deputy Mayor Bowman,
Here.
Councilmember Kuipers,
Here.
Councilmember Farrer,
Present.
Councilmember Overholser,
Here.
Councilmember Davis,
Here.
Councilmember DeRozier,
Here via Zoom.
and the clerk is present. That concludes the roll.
Perfect. You need a motion to excuse the mayor?
Yeah, I'd
Some-
like to make a motion to excuse Mayor Troy McCoy from the meeting tonight.
Second.
All in favor?
I.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to agenda approval. Motion to approve or amend the agenda, please.
I'll move to approve the meeting.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
I.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Summary reports and presentations, council members. Any reports?
Yeah.
No?
Got one next
No.
one.
Any online? Ms. Davis?
No.
Okay. Mr. Rogers?
No, sorry.
Okay. I have one, Discovery Clean Water Alliance. We had, our third quarter meeting was in September, into September. It was I don't know if you want to call it the christening, the opening, the celebration of phase 5. Couple things that came out of that I think is just insane and crazy is the fact that it took us 10 years to get 22 state or federal permits. That is the epitome of efficient. I mean, it's crazy the amount of work we have to go into to get state and federal permits for this, including ones, Mark, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, had to do with the river and being a, what do they call it, compromise, and we had to spend 2 years redoing studies that were done by so-called professionals that didn't do the studies right.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. There was essentially some bad data. And so there was Vancouver and ourselves, BC WA had spent years getting new data to prove that original data was not right. And there was an impairment on the Columbia River because of it, and got that impairment lifted, but just the permit time that added is insane.
Yeah. So they are starting right now on phase 6, which will be 10 years from now. So I definitely will not be here. Hopefully someone else is sitting on that board, but it was, and I asked the city manager and Mr. Peterson to come out and give us a presentation of what they gave us that day. I think the board started, or the Clark Regional started in like 1971, 72. And I think the gallons per day then were like 1.8 million gallons per day for the entire district. And I think where are we at today, gallons per day, Mr. Hersey?
In the summer, we're just under that number. In the winter, we're about 3 times, about 4.5.
Yeah. So we alone are 3 times what the district was back in 1971. So, but they also said, it's like 50+% of the future growth of the county will be inside the district. So, sewer is going to be a big issue for the next few years. So there'll be a lot to come on that, but it was a great presentation, great opportunity to open phase 5 and see the different things that have happened there. All right, let's move on. I've got, on behalf of the mayor, 2 proclamations to read tonight. The first one is going to be National Disability Employment Awareness Month for October 2025. And before I read the proclamations, I just want to say it's a pleasure to give out these proclamations tonight. I have 2 different ones. Proclamations are not statements of policy, but are means by which the city can recognize an event, a group, or an individual. Proclamations can be issued at the discretion of the mayor and may be for organizations, individuals, or businesses within or outside Battlegrounds jurisdiction. Individual council members may not issue proclamations, and requests for proclamations should be directed to the mayor or the city clerk. So let's start with National Disability Employment Month. I'm going to read this and then we'll have Randy Knott come forward. I haven't had to read these for like 6 years, 7, no, it's been longer than that, 8, 9 years. So bear with me. Whereas the Americans with Disability Act, together with the Individuals with Disability Education Act and the Rehab Act of 1973, established the right of adults and children with disabilities to participate fully in all aspects of American society. And whereas the city of Battleground supports the goals in equity, opportunity, independent living, and economic self-sufficiency for people with disabilities. And whereas the U.S. Department of Labor chose this year's theme of celebrating value and talent and recognizes the vital role people with disabilities play in making the nation's workforce diverse and inclusive. And whereas National Disability Employment Awareness Month reminds us of the valued contributions people with disabilities make in our nation's workplaces. And this year marks the 52nd anniversary of the Rehabilitation Act of 1973. This is a major milestone in our nation's ongoing quest to advance access and equity for all Americans. And now, therefore, Troy McCoy, Mayor of Battleground, formally designates October 2025 as National Disability Employment Awareness Month. He calls upon all citizens, government agencies, public and private institutions, businesses, and schools to recommit our community to fulfilling the letter and spirit of the law, and ask policymakers and business leaders to redouble their efforts to benefit from increasing opportunities for meaningful employment of people with disabilities, promote employment in all sectors of our economy, expand employment opportunities for youth with disabilities, and to renew our commitment to inclusive workplaces. If we can have Randy Knott come forward, if you'd like to tell us a little bit about what you guys are doing, and Ms. Halelia will hand you your proclamation.
Thank you so much, Vice Mayor and members of the City Council. Okay, now I'm on. Hi, thank you, Vice Mayor and members of the City Council. My name is Randy Knott, and I'm a County Council appointee to the Developmental Disabilities Advisory Board. The role of the Developmental Disabilities Advisory Board is to advise the County Council on issues related to people with developmental and intellectual disabilities in our community. And we provide leadership for efficiency, efficacy, just getting things done throughout the state. We have a legislative agenda that's very important to us. At this time, we are inviting you, and it's kind of short notice. I believe our staff sent invitations. We have a celebration of both the employees and the employers who are involved in hiring and employing and developing people with developmental disabilities in our community. That event takes place on Wednesday at Clark College in Geyser Hall. It's free to the public, and we would love to see you join us. On a personal note, in addition to serving up here, I spent 15 years on the State Council on Developmental Disabilities in California, and I have a child with autism who I was told would never speak, never potty train. We should set up a supported living account and love them as they are. She is now a Dean's List senior at Sacramento State, graduating in December, and the Department of Rehabilitation is paying for her tuition because they know she will get out of the system. Washington State, unfortunately, is 38th in the nation after Mississippi on spending on people with developmental disabilities. One of the things we plan to do is lobby like crazy to see if we can do better, especially in light of cuts at the federal level. So we truly appreciate your support. If you have any questions related to this, if there's anything any information we can provide you, it's our pleasure, and we really thank you and hope that you can join us on Wednesday. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
I
for
have
the
a
work.
question. Mr. Mayor, I have a question. Could we get the time of that event? I didn't hear what time it
When
was.
is the time of that event on Wednesday?
Randy? Randy,
What time is the event Wednesday?
It is free.
at Clark College at the Tech Center?
Geyser Hall.
Oh, Geyser Hall, thank you.
Thank you.
And I'll make sure our staff email tomorrow again.
Thank you.
And also on CCTV for those who can't get out.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, the second proclamation is support your local Chamber of Commerce Day. Whereas Chamber of Commerce serves as collective voices of business, driving regional economic growth and strengthening the competitiveness of businesses of all sizes. And whereas chambers of commerce accelerate business success by fostering strategic partnerships, advocating for pro-business policies, and aligning resources that fuel innovation and job creation. And whereas Chamber of Commerce provide trusted guidance and vital connections to help businesses navigate challenges, seize opportunities, and expand their market reach. And whereas Chambers of Commerce unite the private sector, public agencies, and community partners to build strong regional economies that sustain high-quality jobs and vibrant communities. And whereas the Greater Vancouver Chamber, founded in 1890, serves as the largest business organization in Southwest Washington, representing companies of every size and sector, delivering high-impact programs and advancing economic vitality across the region. Now, therefore, Troy McCoy, Mayor of Battleground, formally designates October 15th, 2025 as Support Your Local Chamber of Commerce Day. I call upon all citizens and business leaders in the city of Battleground to recognize the essential role of their chamber in driving regional prosperity and supporting a thriving business community. And for this one, we have John McDonough and Jeanette Konevsky from the Greater Vancouver Chamber. If you'd like to come up and tell us how things are going.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor, council members. Mayor Troy kind of outlined how things are going as he wrote that proclamation. So I'll shorten my comments a little bit, but we really appreciate the council's recognition of Chamber of Commerce Day and the important role chambers play for communities across the country. The chamber does connect business, government, and community leaders to solve problems that no single organization can solve alone. We advocate for a healthy business climate, workforce growth, and policies that keep our communities competitive and economically vibrant. Regional chambers like the Greater Vancouver Chamber align resources across city lines to drive collective prosperity for all Southwest Washington. Wanted to share with you a little bit about the Horizon Group study, which was conducted by the Association of Chamber of Commerce Executives, a national study surveying the citizens across the country. 81% of adults agree their local chamber is a trusted resource and partner for businesses. 91% believe chambers grow local businesses. 90% say chambers strengthen local economies. 88% recognize chambers' role in addressing community challenges. And 74% agree chambers create jobs and drive community development. If you're in a situation as council members where you're being approached with any of the challenges or opportunities, please remember that the Greater Vancouver Chamber is here to assist you and bring that business community together. A strong partnership between the city and its chamber ensures a unified voice for business, leading to better informed policies, economic stability, and job creation. Here in Southwest Washington, our chamber serves over 1,000 members and supports hundreds of small businesses and nonprofits, bridging the public-private sectors. Locally, we host leadership programs, business education, workforce development partnerships, and youth entrepreneurship programs that strengthen our regional talent pipeline. Employers, customers, and workers cross city boundaries daily, and our chamber mirrors that reality by aligning priorities that benefit all. A business in Battleground may source materials from Ridgefield, hire from Vancouver, and sell customers in Camas. Regional chambers like ours ensure policies, workforce programs, and infrastructure planning reflect that shared economy. Investors and developers look for regional collaboration because it signals stability, shared infrastructure, and a broad consumer base, all conditions that reduce their risk. The Greater Vancouver Chamber is honored to partner with the City of Battleground and to serve as a connector, convener, and catalyst for regional prosperity. Thank you for recognizing the importance of Chamber of Commerce and for your partnership in making Southwest Washington, specifically Battleground, a great place to do business. Thank you.
Thank you.
And if we could, given that my staff is here with us this evening too,
Yes,
Deputy Mayor, if we could have you come and stand for a picture with us.
you and I don't want that picture, but I'll stand with you.
Okay, good.
That's
what I get for good donuts.
It's the camera, not the video.
Right. Moving on to the C-Tran Composition Report and appointment of an alternate to the C-Tran Composition Review Committee. Do we just need an alternate? Is that what we need? Did we? I thought it was, yeah,
Yeah.
That's not
Done
on
it the last week, the last time, and I said, I'll do it. And I went through it. I already did a update last meeting about it, and I'm getting updates from C-Tran and Mayor McCoy is
good.
already let them know, hey, Victoria.
We don't need that.
Problem solved.
Good.
That is correct. You are correct,
Perfect.
Councilmember Frey.
Just want to make sure you were still gonna
Just
do it.
double checking.
Yeah. The Parks and Community Engagement Board has an opening for a youth member. So we're looking for someone. So if anyone knows of a youth member, what is the qualifications on that? They just have to be in Battleground School District, correct?
Yes, that is correct. I can take a quick look.
I believe we're looking for a new student. The last one rolled off
Graduated.
at
and-
graduation,
okay.
so.
Yes, I believe that the requirements are solely that they have to be living within the city limits of Battleground. I believe they'd have to be a junior or a senior, but I don't want to say that
Okay.
completely. Unfortunately, I cannot access this on
No, that's fine.
information on this computer.
So if anyone knows, forward those on to the mayor and the city for an opportunity for a youth member on the Parks and Community Engagement Board. Moving on to presentations. We have the Columbia River Economic Development Council. So for council, this is, I know you guys think I've been here a long time, but this is pre-me. So Mr. Holmes is one of our former city managers here. So he was, what year? From
Thing, oh.
2004.
City Manager Swanson tells me it's 2004.
2004. So a few years ago, just. Okay,
Yeah.
so a lot of the stuff that we see, the building that we have today, the community, what do we call that? The event center. I'm gonna call it community center forever, but the event center and the parks and the police.
The
building,
CDBG grant for the senior center that
Yeah.
we just
So
remodeled.
this all happened under his tenure. So welcome back to the greatest city in Southwest Washington.
Absolutely. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem or Deputy Mayor. Council, City Manager Swanson, it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for giving us some time on your agenda this evening to share a little bit about the Columbia River Economic Development Council and some of the good work that we are doing. We have a team of folks here, and I do, that was a very generous introduction. I do have to say, this is a lesson of you never know where life is going to take you. I would not have forecasted I would be back in this room, but I'm really glad to be here, and it's aging really well.
Yes.
Looks fantastic. So we're going to do self-introductions. We have some shared responsibility on the slides this evening. So my name is Eric Holmes. You kind of covered that. I'm serving as the interim president for the Columbia River Economic Development Council. I've been on the job for a little more than 2 weeks. And so I don't have absolute command of all the subject matter yet, but between all of us, we'll be able to answer any questions you might have, and looking forward to share a little bit about the story. So with that, turn it over to Abby.
Good evening. My name is Abby Russell. I am with CREDC member business Mall Foster Alonji, which has done quite a bit of work out here in the Battleground area and as well as around Clark County. And I am representing CREDC as the policy committee chair.
Good evening. My name is Ilana Kaur, and I am the business development manager at CREDC, and I actually live 1 mile from here. So it's great to see you all.
And good evening, council. My name is Catherine Holm, and I am the lucky contract lobbyist for CRDC, and I live in Vancouver, Washington, so I'm excited to be here. Thank you.
Thank you. Also, a little bit about CREDC. We are the county's state designated associate development organization. We are an extension of the Department of Commerce. We are a public-private nonprofit organization that brings together 150 investors, including public and private, to drive business growth, job creation, and long-term regional prosperity. We really complement some of the work that the chamber does that you heard from Mr. McDonough a few minutes ago. We've been doing this, CREDC has been doing this in Southwest Washington for more than 40 years. And it has provided free, confidential, _confidential, that's a critical component of the service that we provide, support for businesses of all sizes while leveraging our partnerships at every level through our investors and in the region to strengthen Southwest Washington's economy. We do that by really focusing on 3 strategic priorities. The first one is expanding businesses, and that happens through direct recruitment work that we do. Through either leads that come through the Department of Commerce of the state, directly to our organization from the web or referrals from others, working with our public agency investors who provide referrals, as well as our sister agency, Greater Portland Inc., over on the south side of the river. We also do focused attention on expanding the existing base. So working with businesses throughout Southwest Washington to engage proactively with them and assist in their reinvestment and expansion of capital investment and employment in Clark County. The second strategic priority is supporting people. So collaborating with and supporting programs that enhance the training, skills, and education of the workforce here that to meet the needs of employers across Southwest Washington. And then the last is focusing on creating place. So really highlighting all the special attributes of each of the communities throughout Southwest Washington to enhance what they can offer as in a distinct way, to be an attractor for investment, be an attractor for talent, and retain that investment and talent in those communities. So that, and turn over to Kat.
So if you could go to slide 3, that would actually be perfect. Okay. So I get to talk about the impact in 2024. So we helped generate 1.68 billion in business to business activity over the last 4 years. So that means that we helped secured almost 4,000 jobs through 42 project wins. We also led a really great social media campaign that focused on recruiting new individuals to our region to be a supportive workforce, which is the Just North campaign. We also stood up high quality resources to build capacity for over 200 public works vendors, and we were a leading force in the Clark County Economic Development Plan. So as you can see on the PowerPoint slide, these are really only some of the highlights that CRDC has done over the past year. And during a time when other counties are seeing lower population, lower job growth, especially with the budget at the state government and kind of everything after COVID, Clark County and especially Battleground has really kind of grown and has done quite a bit. And a lot of it is because of CREDC. Next slide.
At our current funding levels, CREDC returns $34 in value in new business activity for every $1 invested. I don't know any bank anywhere that's legal that would provide a return like that. And it all goes to helping recruit businesses, help them grow and keep them here in Clark County, to increasing tax revenue, which funds the public services that we all use, and to fostering economic development. It's like putting $1 in a vending machine and getting $34 back every single time. It's a really smart investment in Battleground and a really smart investment in Clark County. Come over to Alana.
All right, next slide, please. Okay, perfect. So what does our ROI in 2024 look like? So that is 7 company recruitments and 2 expansion wins, bringing in capital investments of over $300 million and 400 jobs. Over the past 4 years, CRDC has brought 42 recruitments and company expansions to Clark County. And so what does that look like for Battleground? And let's move to the next slide. So we have worked with Maddox Industrial Transformers, assisting them in securing their headquarters over in Battleground Village. And we continue to work with them as they continue with their expansion, with their Civic Center, their Events Center. And we have also worked with Wolf Industries with workforce development efforts. Next slide.
Included under the umbrella of the Columbia River Economics Development organization is the access to the Apex Accelerator, which is the Apex Accelerator is a program to assist private businesses navigate the system of public procurement so that they can be competitive to get contracts with City of Battleground, other public agencies across Southwest Washington. So next slide, please. In 2024, the Apex Accelerated program provided advising to over 150 new clients and had over 100 follow-up sessions with established businesses, totaling 312 hours of guidance. That translated into clients from the program in Clark, Cowlitz, and Skamania counties getting over 460 public sector contracts with a value of just over $24 million. So that is a program directly focused on local businesses to coach them through that procurement process. So the revenues that you all raise and compete for in grant programs can then be spent locally with local businesses. We had 19 events that we hosted, had over 640 attendees at those events. An example of that kind of event is actually occurring tomorrow at Clark College's Geyser Hall. It is a Meet the Contractors event. We anticipate over 100 attendees where individual businesses can come, and it's focused really around bidding and business opportunities associated with the Interstate Bridge project. So we're trying to connect that local business base with what could be a significant public investment.
So now comes the part of the program where I get to tell on myself a little bit. So I am locally educated, went to Hawkinson schools, went to Prairie High School, went to WSU Vancouver. I've got a great foundation, and I got a liberal arts degree. So I recognize the irony of handing over the budget slides to me, but I promise that I will keep it high level. And we've got the experts here to answer your questions if you have any questions about this. But there's a couple of things that I wanted to share about these charts. So on the left, you see the total revenue. The blue and orange, or the right hand, if you have trouble with colors, wedges come from our public and private investment. So the blue wedge, the top right there, is our public investment. That is from the City of Battle Ground, the City of Vancouver, City of Ridgefield, Clark County. The public investors, public agencies in Clark County that invest in CREDC as a business resource. The orange wedge there on the bottom right, or bottom right, is private investment. So that is CREDC's membership, private businesses like Mall Foster based in Vancouver. We are investors in CREDC. That is where that funding comes from. Roughly 60% of our funding comes from those two sources. So it's incredibly important and deeply appreciated that we receive this public investment from the City of Battle Ground, other public agencies here in Clark County. It matters a great deal. On the right-hand side, you have our expenses. The blue Pac-Man is our biggest expense, like any organization, is our personnel. So you're looking at roughly 70% of our expenses are salary, benefits, taking care of our people, and the rest is direct expenses by department and operations, primarily. So this just kind of gives you a picture of where we are as far as revenue goes, where it comes from, and then where it goes out to. You may know that earlier this year, the legislature made the decision to cut ADO funding across the state. So CREDC and other associate development organizations across the state have reduced state funding now going forward. That's had an impact on CREDC, as it has undoubtedly had an impact on other ADOs across the state. At the same time, as I'm sure you're also managing, the cost of doing business is rising. So it's been more expensive to do business. Healthcare costs more, supplies cost more, and there's a lot of uncertainty in the economy right now. We are experiencing it as a business. We hear it from businesses who talk with us in our role at CREDC. It's a reality. Demand for the services that CREDC provides, due to this variety of factors and also economic factors that are outside of everyone's control, are really driving up demand for the services while the resources are being constrained, or even in some cases cut with the ADO funding. So it's been pretty challenging. And because of that uncertainty, this isn't the time that we want to be leaning away from economic development. We want to be leaning into it to make sure that we can support those businesses, keep them here, keep them thriving, recruit new businesses, and support our workforce. We have been really fortunate to have the opportunity to visit the City of Vancouver earlier this summer in August. Now here at the City of Battle Ground, thank you very much for the opportunity. We're going to be visiting all of the cities around the county, as well as the county itself and other public agencies, making sure that we're being very transparent and communicative with this information. And also, can I go to the next slide, please? And also recognizing the investment and the importance of that in CREDC. Last year, the City of Battle Ground increased its investment fourfold in CREDC from $2,500 to $10,000. Thank you. As you have seen, that is the funding, your funding and others who are putting into CRDC is what makes these benefits and resources to these businesses possible. So thank you very much for continuing to be a partner with us, to continue to invest in the benefits to these businesses and the support that we can provide. And there is a huge return on investment for that. So we really appreciate your continued partnership and look forward to continuing to work with you. And to close us out, I'm going to have Eric come back up for a few more words.
So that's a high-level overview of the work that we do. The investment, the Battleground has increased in the organization, and we're building on 40 years, more than 40 years of public-private partnership to invest in the vitality through collaboration of Southwest Washington. And we look forward to continuing to work with City of Battleground through your city manager and her staff as a crucial part of this broader public-private partnership that is focused on growing the economy of Southwest Washington. So we're happy to take any questions.
Questions? You on mic?
No, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you for the presentation. I know, you know, a long time ago, we decided to cut funding and it didn't participate for a while. And I think it's good that we are participating again. And it's nice to see that we have some companies here in town that are participating. And one of the only questions I have is, and I don't know if CRDC is this something CRDC would be doing or if it's more private stuff, but you know, in our community, we have a real entrepreneurial community. We have a community that of business owners and you know, ideas and things like that. And I know I've had the opportunity to be in DC for the city quite a bit over my time here. And one of the things we were meeting with one of the 3-letter agencies, I forget which one it was, and they were talking about what can we do different in our town to grow business? Like what are the things, the ancillary businesses to the businesses that we have here? And they asked about incubators and business incubators and what do those look like? And we happened to see one. We got reined in at Reagan Airport, and it was about 11 o'clock at night with me and former city manager, and we're walking by. This mall had a business incubator in the bottom of it, and there were people in there working and building their products, and people were helping them build their products. And they had, you know, we were talking to them about it, and they had people that were there to help them get from an idea to a business. And I heard someone say a long time ago, it's easier to give birth than it is to resurrect. And so sometimes those new things in our city, we see that a lot. We see a lot of businesses starting up. And part of that is our responsibility as a council to make sure we have the proper zoning and stuff to allow those businesses to stay here and grow and not, you know, move to Vancouver or somewhere else where they can build that business. But the CRDC, getting to my question, has CRDC had any interest or is there a possibility with them to do something like that with business incubators, or is that something that's completely separate?
So I think there is opportunity for the EDC to be part of that conversation. The EDC currently and through its history has not been a host to that kind of a brick and mortar space where there is business incubation going on. And the EDC absolutely would want to be part of a conversation about who would be the best organization to kind of host and be the backbone of that. And then how could the EDC play a role in securing funds to support that kind of thing? And I think it's notable that you know, business incubation can happen in a lot of different ways. Farmers markets actually can be a big source of incubation, and you just had a big success opening one just in the last couple of weeks. I think you have a food cart pod here too. That's also an incubator type of thing. So there's a lot of ways. And I also read the article about the investment in long-range thinking around your downtown, which is where some of the kind of space is available where businesses can start out and grow from there. So the EDC absolutely would want to be part of that conversation so that we can identify who is the absolute best host and then provide that technical and competitive support.
Well, thank you for your time and thank you for coming out and presenting to us. And
Thank you.
I'm sure, thank you for not asking for, you know, I'm sure usually we get the ask at the end, you know, but I'm sure we'll continue to partner with you guys and I think it's a good thing as a council. It's nice to see two of the businesses that you had on there, two businesses that are really doing great things in this community and growing and it's awesome to see. So thank you.
Well, thank you for your investment and we look forward to ongoing partnership.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right. Move on to citizens communication. I have two tonight. We'll have 3 minutes each. I'm not going to read the big spiel. Be nice, be kind. You have 3 minutes. We'll start with Jessica Cole.
Hello, Deputy Mayor and Council. My name's Jessica Cole. I just really appreciated the proclamations tonight. I know the Disability Employment Awareness Month one is has been long standing, so it's cool to have it here again tonight. And the chamber that just walked out, it was nice having theirs. And I'll just say, even though they're not all here anymore, is they have a Give More 24 giving once a year, and they just had it. And they had a ton of nonprofits, and quite a few were from served specifically Battleground. And the one that did the best overall out of all the nonprofits was the North County Community Food Bank, and they've surpassed $100,000. So that is really cool. And I did go to the New Farmers Market the first weekend. I didn't know a lot of the companies or businesses, but I did know one Planted Apothecary. And so that's what got me down there. And it was really cool to see the different ones and people I know there that have stuff that they're selling. So it was really cool. And just so you're aware, you are in the presence of one of the A+ students at Battleground University. Not to brag. I passed the group test with Megan. And so we have really great professors. And I would say Megan is my favorite because she gave some of us $100 grand. It was candy bar though. But still, it was not cash. Nobody, please hear my whole comment if you're online. And I guess the last thing I want to say is we're having Drug Take Back again on Saturday, October 25th. And that's always done in partnership with the police department. It has to be because it's drugs. And so the Battleground Prevention Alliance is partnering with them. We're going to have some students from Cascadia Tech Academy that help and some students from the Dream Team. And that's to take prescription and over-the-counter pills, liquids and inhalers. There's no sharps or syringes. That's at the transfer station that they could take them. And vape pens and e-cigarettes as long as batteries are removed. And that's to keep medications to get in the hands of people that they don't need, they shouldn't be taking them to prevent overdoses and to prevent it from going into our environment and water systems, so thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, and last thing, so a few seconds. As the success of the Drug Take Back, in my opinion, one of the numbers you should look at is people connecting with the police department, even if it's just me, which it won't be.
Thank you. All right. And is it Marilee or Meridee Pabst?
Merity's actually going to talk during the franchise agreement
Okay,
portion.
perfect.
So, yeah.
We will save that one for the franchise agreement then. Do we have any online?
No, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Then we'll move on to the consent agenda. Does any council member believe any item needs to be withdrawn?
Like to move to approve the consent agenda in its entirety as presented.
Second?
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none. Let's see, we're going on to business, community development block grant presentation. Mr. Hersey.
Good evening, council. Give me a second. I'll get my PowerPoint up. All right, council, tonight I'm going to talk about CDBG. I'll go over some quick facts about it, some possible projects, the timeline for it, and then we'll have time for comments and questions. So just a reminder, CDBG funds can be used for the following: acquisition of real property, parks and rec facilities, street and sidewalk improvements, water and sewer improvements, cleanup of contaminated sites, and then economic development assistance when that occurs in the right of way. The funding for this year is actually pretty small, and it may be nothing. Currently, the county is behind on spending all the money that they've been giving. So one of the thoughts about catching up and getting right with HUD is to not have any money in the public facilities and use it for some of the housing programs. The housing programs don't have all the red tape that our public facilities projects have. We have to go through NEPA, deal with all the environmental issues, those sorts of things. So our projects are hard to get out, whereas as I said, the housing ones are not. So at the October 13th Urban County Policy Board, they're going to have that discussion. So I'm going to continue on like there's a pot of about 300,000, but you may not see me again this year if that goes away. And we'll obviously give you a heads up that it's gone away, but just be aware of that. The max grant request is 400,000, minimum's 50,000. There's additional requirements for any request over 200. And then the BABA, which is the Buy America, Build America, is required for anything over 250,000. The grant scores out of 100 points with 10 points for your match. And so essentially you get 1 point for every 5% of match up to those 10 points or for a 50% match. Pre-applications are due on October 31st, and then the full application is due on December 5th. The scoring is the same as last year, so the need is 20 points, and that's why is the project needed. 20 points for why your project has the best solution, 10 points for the outcomes, 10 points for your agency capacity, so it's your experience with previous projects, 10 points for outreach, so this meeting and the other meetings that we do count towards that, 10 points for the match that I mentioned, 10 points for your equity score, and then timeline is 10 points as well, so how fast you can get the project out. There's a way to lose points. That's essentially if you have right-of-way acquisition with displacement, if you have environmental constraints, or if you have delayed projects. And so I'll go over a couple projects, and for the environmental score, I'll kind of talk about what I see as how we would fall within that range. Projects must be in a low-income neighborhood. So there's 3 areas on the map there that are in green over on the west side, and then the northeast side. Those are pretty safely in the low-income range. The one in the top middle and the bottom right, they currently fall into the low-income range, but they're right on the edge. So new projects, new things in that area could raise those, and then they would fall out. If your project isn't contracted by the time that changes, you could end up losing the money. So that's why I kind of show them as more risky than the areas in green. And then, yeah, just again, for environmental, NEPA rules have become more stringent. So something we need to address. So possible projects, the first is McConnell Park improvements. The park has quite a bit of underutilized area. Engineering staff right now is going through a master plan for that park. Probably about a month ago or so, we sent out a survey to get feedback from the residents in that area about what they're looking for. Project manager right now is working on putting all that together to come up with a suggested plan. Then that will go back out to the public to see if there's any changes to it. That one's a low risk on the income. It's pretty solidly in the low income area, and there's not a lot of projects in that area that likely will change it. And the environmental risk is low. There's no wetlands on the site. It's not near a stream, anything like that. So this project would be a pretty safe project to go after. Next is Remy Park. This is the one of the two that we applied for last year. Master plan was recently approved. The income risk is low. Again, there's not a lot that's going to change, and it's pretty solidly there. The environmental risk is high. We've got wetlands, archaeology, you name it, there's on that site. So getting through the NEPA process is going to be more difficult and take longer. Last project I'm going to throw out is the Grace Pathway. This was the second of the projects that we applied for last year. Similar to some of our other CDBG projects that fills in the gaps and sidewalks. From a low to moderate income, it's a low to medium risk. Again, it's decently in the area, but there are some projects that could increase that income level that may knock it out. And the environmental risk is low to high. So depending on if we phase it or not, last year, I believe if I remember correctly, we chose to phase it. As we get farther north on the project, there is a creek, which would cause the environmental score to go up. If we stay to the southern area, we would avoid that. So that would be on the low end. The timeline, this is my initial presentation. I'll come back at the next meeting for a recommendation and public hearing. I'll be at Planning Commission on Wednesday to run this by them and have them pick a project or projects to recommend to you. So ultimately my questions is, do you want me to look at any other projects, and then your thoughts on the suggested projects?
I'm more interested probably in the Grace gaps for the sidewalks. I see our seniors over there. I know we have seniors on 22, but that's being dealt with in another project. So I'm more in favor of looking at Grace and filling in those gaps. That's where I see more of the lower income on that side.
I would have to agree with Ms. Ferrer on that. It seems like with the traffic that we potentially have on Grace, and it does make sense to phase that so that we could get some headway on the south end, stay away from that creek a little bit, but improve that thoroughfare there would make sense to me as well.
Yep, I don't disagree. I think that's priority.
How about Councilmember Davis or DeRozier's?
I would agree with the other council members. Grace Parkway would be a good one to go after.
Okay.
I don't have any preference right now. Thank you.
On the Grace one, what would is that on the west side of Grace?
Yeah, it's on the west side. So I believe last year because there's improvements needed all the way up to 10th Street, and the creek is about north of 6th. So I think last year we chose to stop it at 6th to get that kind of southern portion, which would provide access to the new farmers market, that sort of thing. And then again, keeps us away from the creek. And then in a future phase, we can look at the 6th to 10th. But yeah, it was on the west side of the street.
Will having the new farmers market help that? Like saying we need connectivity to it for this
Yeah, I
area?
think there's a lot of, especially like in the equity side, where having access to fresh produce, those sorts of things would be good for the scoring.
Okay. Good. I'm fine with that.
Okay.
All right. Go get us some money. Good luck with that. Yeah, good luck with that. I took the bus ride on that one year and the bus driver knew the back way to get to Camas over the mountain. Man, I hated riding that bus. I didn't care what they wanted by the time I got to Camas. I was not feeling good. All right. How about let's move on to ordinance 2025-17. This is a 0.01% public safety sales and use tax presentation.
Good evening, council. So before you have an opportunity to set a public hearing for ordinance 2025-17, implementing a 0.1% sales and use tax for public safety. We recommend the hearing be set for November 3rd, 2025. I do apologize. Your staff report said October 20th. My date's counting. It needs to be November 3rd in order to have enough time for posting. And with that, if you have any questions about it, we've talked about it several times, both in our retreats and then as well in our study sessions. So happy to answer any questions you may have as well.
Any questions?
I guess since there's no questions, I will make a motion to set the public hearing. You have to read it for this one too? Okay.
Sorry.
All right. Kind of
You can read the ordinance by title, please.
Number 2025-17. An ordinance of the city of Battleground, Washington, enacting an additional sales and use tax of 0.1% as authorized in section 01, chapter 350, laws of Washington 2025 for criminal justice purposes, adding a new section to Title 3, Revenue and Finance Municipal Code, chapter 3.25, public safety sales and use tax, and providing for severability and establishing an effective date.
So now I will make a motion to move to set a public hearing for that ordinance 2025-17, please.
For November 3rd.
For November 3rd.
I second that.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Seeing none. Just gonna make you repeat the ordinance. All right, we'll move on to ordinance 2025-20. This is a forged fiber franchise agreement presentation.
All right, council, I've got 3 franchise agreements as the next 3 items. So I'll just kind of give a brief what a franchise agreement is. So essentially the city owns right of way and we have what I would call private utilities. That could be your gas company, water, cable, telecommunications, those sorts of things that essentially use the city's right of way to provide those services to our citizens. As part of that, we come up with an agreement that essentially sets the rules about how that works. And so any utility that wants to come in signs one of these agreements with us to essentially get permission to do so. So the first one we have up is Forge Fiber. Meredith Pabst is here representing them. So I'll have her come up and say a little bit about Forged Fiber.
Good evening, council members. I'm Meredith Pabst. It's PABST 2728 North L Street in Washougal. And I'm speaking on behalf of Forged Fiber 37 LLC. It's an AT&T entity, and it's incorporated in Delaware, registered to do business here in Battleground. And you may have seen reporting from earlier this year in May that AT&T is acquiring some of the assets of Lumen Technologies. And Lumen used to be CenturyLink, which used to be Quest. And so Seahawk fans know this. And not all the assets, but some of the assets. So what AT&T has been working on and having my firm help with is getting all the permissions necessary so that when this larger deal closes and Forge Fiber owns the assets, it'll have all the legal rights to be there in the right of way. The franchise is also proposed to allow future extension of the fiber services. AT&T Forge Fiber doesn't have any specific plans for Battleground right now, but it may in the future be extending the services to other customers in the city. And I wanted to thank Mark Hersek for his responsiveness and professionalism through this process. I've been working with a lot of cities and counties recently, and it's a pleasure doing business with Battleground. And that's it from me tonight, unless you have any questions.
Questions? Any online?
Good job, Mark.
Okay.
No, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
So I'll just add to that. So Forged Fiber took our standard template and made some very minor modifications that both myself and our city attorney were okay with. So other than that, it's pretty much our standard one.
Okay. Want to take the next one?
Sure. Next up is Easy Fiber. Unfortunately, they weren't able to make it here, so I'll just give a quick 5 seconds about them. So they're based out of Texas. They're a fiber-based internet company that provides speeds up to 8 gigabit. They have a communications plan process during construction. So they have a whole thing that they do during construction to make sure that citizens are informed, you know, why is this person working outside my door type of thing. That's pretty healthy. Their goal is to make sure that if there's any property disruption, that occurs 7 to 14 days after. And almost like all of the other companies here, almost all of their infrastructure is underground. So you typically, other than a little cover where, you know, they get access to, there's not a lot that's actually above ground. They accepted our template, didn't make any changes, just added in the information. So that is everything I have about them.
Any questions?
I'll wait until we finish all through it.
Perfect. Move on to number 3.
The third on the list is MetroNet, and Jill Cords is here to give a presentation. And Jill, I'll run the slide, so just let me know when to switch. Give me a second to bring it up.
Good evening. I'll start with the introductions. Jill Cordes. I am the Vice President of New Market Development for MetroNet Fiber Optics. It's a pleasure to be here, and I want to echo what Meredy had said about working with Mark. Work with folks around the country, and he is a breath of fresh air to work with. Very professional.
I did not pay them to say this either. Just-
That is true. So we always like to share a little bit about who MetroNet is, right? Because we're going to be in your community for a while, 18 to 24 months for a rough estimate of time. But we are the nation's fastest growing fiber optic company across the nation. Currently, we're in 19 states. We did just secure our franchise agreement with the city of Vancouver, and we are also working with Clark County. So if we look at what MetroNet is going to do, we will build fiber to the residents within Battleground. We will also service the businesses as they sign up for service or as we pass them. So we are doing a full fiber optic build throughout the city. And when we start this project, we make sure that we are fully funded. That's important, right? Because we don't want to end up running out of resources as we build. So we make sure we work, do our due diligence with Mark and the city team to understand what we're entering, what the build is going to entail, and how long we will be here. The estimation, like I mentioned, is 18 to 24 months. And we're going to be building about 7,000 passes throughout the city of Battleground. I know I have 15,000 up there, but that encompasses the Clark County build piece of it as well. So just wanted to make sure that was separate. Next slide. Oh, the collateral. So our communication to your residents is key. We know that. We're in 19 states, over 300 communities built. We've learned a thing or two about communicating with your residents and our future customers. So if you click, I know it's kind of cumbersome. Right away, 30 to 15 days before the build, we are going to mail them a letter. This letter is going to come to them in a MetroNet envelope, and it's going to have a lot of good information. That is, if they open it, right?
Right.
It's going to take them to our website, which is available 24/7, like all websites. But then it also has a toll-free phone number. That number is staffed by MetroNet associates. So there, they will be able to talk to a live associate and get those questions answered too. We realize that this is, overwhelming, right? It's going to raise some questions, and it's our job to get those questions delivered to MetroNet, not to you all, because you all have enough on your plate. So we have the next phase. They don't open the letter. We send out this postcard. It's a flashy postcard. It's a bright green at the moment. We are going through a logo change, and so we will update all of that as it happens. But right now, it's a flashy postcard that's going to come 7 to 10 days. It's going to instruct. Construction is underway, right? It's coming. It again is going to reference the website as well as that 800 number. And then if we go a little bit further, we have these yard ducts, and I have examples in my bag as well, but we're going to place these in the right of way. It's a little sign that will say construction underway. It's going to, again, reference that website as well as that phone number. So now they can alert us. It's getting real, right? Legs are out. They might see some paint. They can let us know that they have a sprinkler system. They have a dog fence, whatever they have. We are there for them. And if you click it one more time, Mark, it will give you an example of that construction hub. They'll be able to go there. It's going to have the frequently asked questions. It's going to have videos for them to actually tune in and watch to learn what an easement is or what a public right-of-way is, right? And then it's going to direct them there. They're going to be able to open a ticket with MetroNet. That ticket is answered within 24 hours from our staff, either by a phone call, a knock on their door, or an email. But we take that communication very serious because, again, this is our investment. These are our future customers, and we have to take care of them to make sure we meet their needs and they don't call you guys. Next slide. Our field crew. This is also an important part. We have them well marked. We have the trucks marked with contractor for MetroNet. We have the vests that say contractor for MetroNet. We have the name badges. We have signs where our communication feels it's appropriate. But we want those residents to know who we are, who is working in their neighborhood, and how to reach us for anything. Post-construction, everything we put underground will stay underground, right? We'll have some overhead, but if you look at we call those flower pots, everything is flush grade, everything is restored as we build. So that is, I know we talked about that with Mark, everything is going to be restored as it is built. That's important. And then finally, your team. We're not here just for the build. We are your partners, right? We are going to have our construction team, the city relations. I brought Chris Smith with us today. She is your long-term point of escalation for anything, right? Residents, construction, anything. She and her team are your point. We also will have field operations. These are the guys and gals that are going to be doing the installations throughout the city. They're going to be based out of this market, right? These are going to be your residents as our associates. And then we also have our community build. Those are the team that's going to look at identifying MDUs, future growth opportunities, new developments. So they'll build the city even when the original city build is complete. And then we'll have sales as well. They'll be here long term. So again, we're never going to be, passed off. We are going to continue to be a part of the Battleground community. Any questions?
All right.
Here we go.
Our way.
Oh,
Okay.
man.
Well, some will be for you, but I think I was looking at your site and you guys have these like sensors, right? That show you where all of the sewer lines are, the utility lines are, so you don't have to start cutting into our right of ways if it's not necessary or hit something by accident. Was that your website? Sorry, we have 3 here tonight, so I thought it was yours.
I don't believe that was ours.
Okay.
No,
Okay.
it sounds nice, but no, we work closely with the city, Mark and his team to get the maps and that type of thing. So we do our due diligence during the permitting piece of it.
Yeah, anything you do in Washington requires locates. And so whether it be them or even us, when we're doing a capital project, you call in locates, the utility is responsible for telling you where that is and that sort of thing, so that when their crews are out constructing, that they can avoid hitting it.
Okay. That's the only one I have actually for her. The rest is for our staff, so I.
Get that easy then.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So MetroNet, are they an actual provider of service then? It sounded like you have sales and things like that. Is that like a competitor to our, I guess, our local, I don't know.
We don't have any fiber optics, here in town.
Well, we have,
So
like,
we
there's,
provide internet and phone services, and we are the provider of that. So we're going to build our product for service.
yeah.
Yeah.
All right. I think that's it for questions.
All right, well, thank you, and we look forward to working together.
Thank you. All right, now for questions for staff.
So, cause obviously before they do, they have to do all the permits and that's why, okay. So do they have to, also do the business license here in Battleground, right?
Correct.
Okay. Just making sure, cause and then also, cause I was looking at some of our ordinances and going through all of those 44 pages that we had for that. And I was actually thankful of some of the stuff that's in there. The other one is, what is the process that we have? So we have these 3 companies and they're coming before council and with this request to start, laying down the groundwork, putting all this stuff in. And so what is the process to ensure for our citizens that these are, good businesses? Not saying you guys aren't, but I just want to know what the process is to ensure that we don't have just, and there's some kind of safety in there for our citizens. And because they will be cutting into right of ways and doing this stuff. I know we have assurances through ordinances and the document here that if there's damage that it has to go back to, what it previously looked at. But because I was doing some research on, businesses out there and, you can look up things like Better Business Bureau and see, there are companies out there that have, low ratings, not saying that's you guys, just we're doing generalizing why I'm leading up to this question. So
Sure. I mean, there's kind of like you talked about business license, the other licensing that they're required to have. So that's sort of the basic first step. And then once that's done, there's during the construction, and quite frankly, it's not different than any other contractor. They have to have bonding, they have to have insurance, they have to meet all of our permit requirements. They get inspected from our inspector, all of that kind of stuff. So it'd be very similar to any contractor that's doing work, whether it's for the city or for private development. There's always going to be good contractors and bad contractors, and that's part of what we as staff have to manage. And again, we've got the agreement is almost like a contract. So again, when we're doing a capital project, we have a contract that spells things out. That's essentially what this agreement does. And then we, like I said, the insurance and the bonding that ultimately will protect everything.
I guess I'm looking to see if there's a process that your staff goes through to ensure, because like you said, there's good ones, there's bad ones, and yes, we have things to protect us, but then it's like, but then it doesn't make us look good, right? When we do get a bad one in here. And so I'm just like, is there any steps in the process that maybe we do some research, some background research to see if there's good ratings, bad ratings on these companies that come in?
I think it's I might refer to Z if she knows anything along that lines, but I'm not familiar. I think there's kind of limited ability as long as they meet the requirements that we've spelled out in our code and our agreement. I can't look at Better Business Bureau and be like, oh, they can't do it. I don't know of any process where that would happen.
Okay.
And I would agree, Mark's correct on his statements that they just have to follow the city code and that's kind of the end of that.
Okay. But then yet here it comes before council, so we can vote yes or no though. Oh, okay. That's it.
Any other questions? No. Councilmember Davis and Councilmember DeRozers, if you guys have questions, just chime in. I have a hard time, I keep forgetting to look at the screen, so sorry if I'm missing it, but yeah, just chime in. The one question that I had for the city, they do all this outreach to our citizens saying, hey, we're gonna be here working, that kind of stuff. Are we doing any ourselves when we know that they're gonna be in town? Are we posting anything to our social media, to our outlets that we have saying, hey, these people are working here? Just so that to keep from us getting a bunch of calls ourselves saying, hey, we know they're here. These guys are authorized to be here if they're, you know.
Yeah, we can work with Alicia on what that looks like. I know specifically like with Jill, we worked quite a bit to talk about what that process would look like. And, you know, not just her company, but I'm sure the others would provide that kind of information. So we can choose to appropriately share what's, you know, appropriate for us to share and then make sure again, they have to follow our permitting requirements, requires certain amount of public notice, those sorts of things. So it'd be similar to the process we do with developers and that.
Okay.
There's notice requirements built in there too, where they directly notice the citizens that might be impacted by it as well.
And I get that part. The only reason I say this is, I mean, I'm in a business where if you show up with a clipboard, people just let you go wherever you want to go. And they have no clue, right? It's like, yeah, welcome to the back of the house, you know? And, you know, while it meets all of our stuff, I'm just wondering if there's an opportunity for us just to put it out there ourselves and saying, hey, these contractors are in our communities working for the next 18 months or whatever, you know, just know that they're going to be around and here's who they are. And, you know, half people read it, half people won't.
Yeah.
But then it might keep us from getting calls. But anyways, okay, perfect. Yeah, go ahead.
So we heard from Forge Fiber that they don't have anything scheduled anytime soon, that this is something that will probably be later on. We have Metro that's saying more that is going to happen sooner. You guys have plans to start moving forward, but we don't have Easy Fiber here to give us their timeline and what their plans are. Are they thinking like Metro that they're going to want to start breaking sooner than later or within?
So it's pretty interesting. I think, I don't want to speak for them, but you know, I feel like this market's a little bit underserved and that's why you're seeing a bunch of this. And so I've been actually talking to just recently another one that you'll see probably at the next meeting, if not. So one of the things they mentioned is there's a lot of times where there's sort of some communication amongst all the parties, like, hey, we'll serve here, we'll serve here, we'll serve here. Or, you know, they just may want to say, nope, I'm serving this area. And if you want to come in as well, we'll be your competitor. So I think that's a business decision they ultimately have to make based on who gets franchise agreements and that sort of thing. And so I think they all want to be here. It may kind of be dependent on who gets here first and what level of competition that they want.
Okay.
And I don't know if Jill wants to add anything to that.
And I could be wrong, but yeah, it just from my understanding, all this is allowing a company to come in and offer the services to see if it's viable to install fiber in the area and see if they have the customer base to support it. Because as far as I know, it's not cheap to lay fiber. And so this is just us saying, yeah, you guys have at it. If it makes sense, great. Obviously, it'd be good for our area to have fiber optic ability, but at the end of the day, it has to pencil out for the company to do the business here. So we're just giving the opportunity to do their business here, as far as I understand.
Correct.
Understood.
All right.
We reading ordinances.
We don't need to
This is just.
read.
No, I'll bring that.
Yeah.
The
Yep.
state law has some very specifics, so I'll bring it back to the November 3rd meeting and offer it up for approval.
Perfect.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. All right, administrative reports. Do we have any?
Not this evening.
Okay.
Wow.
Council communications, any?
Well, real quick, I have a question on that. When is the next C-Tran review committee? When is that? Do we know what that, because I haven't heard anything other than, you know, We got the,
I think it's postponed until further notice because the court heard this last Friday, the 3rd at 1:30, and I don't know what
right,
the outcome of that was, but that's why they postponed it.
yeah, okay. Yeah, so I was just gonna ask council if they still wanted to stick with the same direction now that we've got changes and updates going on, so. Just trying to get direction from staff in case that gets called. I mean, it could get called. I don't know what the law is, how long they have to let it notify us. They have bylaws in the C-Tran in regards to this committee that, hey, you need to give your 10 days notice, or which I'm sure the mayor will be back by then. I don't even know how long he's gonna be gone. So I just want to make sure that, everything's still no change of directions or anything like that.
The last communication I had is what I've sent to council on Friday. That was from C-Tran, or Thursday, actually, indicating that court hearing was on Friday at 1:30 and
This
Mhm.
Friday.
until further notice, they were gonna cancel or postpone that meeting that they were supposed to take place, I think, Thursday.
Yeah, yeah, okay. So, yeah,
I'm good with just keep it status right now. If they call. I think it's gonna be a while.
okay, so don't worry about it.
Yeah.
Okay,
All right. We need to go into an executive session pursuant to RCW 42.30.110.1B. The city council will enter an executive session to consider the selection of a site or acquisition of real estate by lease or purchase when public knowledge regarding such consideration would cause a likelihood of increased price. This session will last 20 minutes, commencing at 8:25. And we will be back out at 8:45. Order
There we go.
at 8:45. And we are done for the night, so we will adjourn. And the next meeting will be Monday, October 20th at 7 PM with a study session at 6 PM. We will now enter into a closed door session pursuant to RCW 4230.1404B. The city council will enter a closed door session to plan or adopt the strategy or position to be taken by the governing body during the course of collective bargaining with no action to follow.